GymCandy Part 3, Chapter 5. The great thing happened last. Just before Christmas, my Grandpa Leo and Grandma Harriet came, as usual. When Grandpa Leo found out I had my driver's license, he shook his head back and forth. For the first time ever, they didn't insist on taking me to McDonald's, and I sure didn't mention miniature golf. Mainly, they stayed in the living room talking with my mother. Christmas Day, all 5 of us went to church. My mom went to services every Sunday, but my dad went only on Christmas and Easter, and that's when I went. When we came back, I opened my presents. I got clothes, some books, a few gift cards from my mom, and $200 from Grandma and Grandpa. But I didn't get anything from my dad. He raised his index finger and mouthed the word, later. The day after Christmas, Mom took my grandparents back to the airport. That wasn't so bad, she said when she returned. Leo's looking old, my father said. My mom nodded. I know. Mom said he's starting to forget things. They fell silent for a moment. Then my dad turned to me. Do you like the Jeep, Mick? Yeah, sure, I said. It's great. He took the Wrangler keys out of his pocket and laid them on the table. Good, because it's yours. Merry Christmas. Are you serious? Completely. He paused. You'll have to work for me to pay for insurance and gas. I figure 4 hours a week ought to cover it. I guess my mouth was hanging open in disbelief. My mom explained. Mick, Drew's dad has been driving you everywhere. We know he has. All right, there was nothing to be done. Your dad was working and I was working, but we're not going to take advantage of him for 3 more years. You've got your license, so it just makes sense, what with practices and games, for you to have your own car. My dad nodded towards the keys lying on the table. Go ahead, take 'em. I suspect you'll want to go for a ride. I went to pick them up, but my mom put her hand over mine and held it there. The contract you signed, everything in it still stands. You break any of those rules, and the Jeep comes back. I nodded. I know, I said. And I want to know where you're going, who you're going with, and when you'll be back every time you leave this house, and that cell phone stays on. Understood? Yes, I said. She let go. I picked the keys up from the table and headed for the door, so excited I was shaking. When I reached the door, I turned back to my dad. What are you going to drive? I'm going to buy a Dodge pickup from a guy at work. Very cool looking, deep purple, oversized tires, lots of bells and whistles. He's bringing it by tonight. It'll help when we broadcast from outside the studio. My mom held up one finger. 1 hour, Mick. I want you home in 1 hour. So Mick's so excited. His dad gives him his old Jeep, which is something that Mick's always wanted to drive and own. And so now he has this freedom. And yes, there's parameters around that freedom, right? His mom's like, you got to stay true to the driving contract. You can only stay out for 1 hour this time. But here he is. He has his own car now, though. And he's going to work for his dad to pay for the insurance and gas. I picked up Drew and then went to Deshawn's place and got him. They thought I was incredibly lucky to have my driver's license. I had to tell them the Jeep was mine over and over before they finally believed me. We drove around for a while and eventually ended up at Cherokee Park. Does this have 4-wheel drive? Deshawn asked. I think so, I said. He pointed to Piper's Creek, the banks of which were visible from the parking lot. If it's got 4-wheel drive, you could drive right smack into that creek and come up on the other side. We all stared at the creek for a bit. Try it, Mick, Drew said. I'm not driving into any creek. Come on. It's not happening. I looked at my watch. I told my mom I'd be back in an hour, I said. She's pretty nervous about all of this. So yes, Mick's really excited to have his car, and his friends, they don't have their licenses yet, so they're really excited too. And the Jeep, right, it can go off trail, right, off-roading and all of that, and so they want him to try that out. But he's too freaked out still, right? He just got this Jeep and he doesn't want to mess anything up. So he's following his parents' rules very closely as of right now.